It's Thursday. The text came in on Monday. You've seen it. You've read it. You've thought about it in the shower, while making coffee, at the red light by the grocery store. You even drafted a reply once, on Tuesday, and then put your phone face down without sending it. Now it's Thursday, and the unread weight of it has gotten heavier somehow, even though it's been sitting in the same spot the whole time. Your friend's message glows there, harmless. Hey, have you been? 3 words, 4 days, and you in your kitchen, holding your phone like it might bite. If you've ever felt actual relief when a text chain finally went quiet long enough that you could stop owing anyone anything, this video is going to make you feel weirdly understood. You're not flaky. You're not a bad friend. You're running a kind of communication math nobody taught you, and it's costing more than you realize. Here's what nobody tells you. The delayed reply isn't laziness or avoidance in the way people assume. Researchers studying digital communication, including work from Larry Rosen at Cal State Dominguez Hills and ongoing studies in the journal Computers and Human Behavior, have documented something they sometimes call response anxiety or messaging fatigue. Translation: your brain treats an open message thread less like a casual exchange and more like an unfinished obligation, sitting on a shelf, watching you. And once you understand what's actually happening underneath, the 4-day silence starts making complete sense. The first piece is what cognitive psychologists call response cost. Decision-making research, going back to work by Daniel Kahneman, shows that the mental energy required to make a choice doesn't scale with how important the choice is. A small decision made while tired can drain just as much fuel as a big one. So when you open a text that says, "How have you been?" your brain doesn't see 3 words. It sees a fork in the road with 12 branches. Honest answer? Curated answer? How honest is too honest? Are they actually asking or being polite? Translation: a casual check-in is neurologically a small project, and projects pile up. Then there's the perfectionism trap. Researchers studying procrastination, particularly Joseph Ferrari at DePaul University, have found that chronic delayers aren't lazy. They're often paralyzed by the gap between the response they want to give and the response they're capable of giving in the moment. You don't reply on Monday because Monday's version of you can't write the message Thursday's version believes it deserves. So you wait for a better mood, a sharper mind, a more rested you. That person rarely arrives on schedule. The message just keeps aging. Here's where it gets interesting. There's also a presence problem. Sherry Turkle's research on digital connection has spent 20 years pointing out that texting created an expectation we never agreed to, that we should be reachable, responsive, and emotionally available in real time, on demand, regardless of what else is happening inside us. But your nervous system didn't evolve for ambient, all-day, half conversations with 12 people at once. It evolved for full presence with one person at a time. So when you finally have the bandwidth to reply, you want to actually be there for the message. And most days, you're not. So you wait. But the layer underneath all of that is what psychologists call the social accounting ledger. Studies on close relationships, including work from researchers like John Gottman, have shown that people quietly track emotional reciprocity in their bonds. What was given, what was returned, what's owed. Slow repliers tend to score high on a specific kind of conscientiousness. They don't want to send a half reply. They want to send the full one, the kind that sees the person, the kind that says, "I read what you wrote, I thought about it, here's me actually meeting you." Wild, right? The 4-day silence is often the opposite of indifference. It's care, calcified into stillness. Think about the last time a friend sent you a long, vulnerable message. They told you something hard. Maybe their dad's diagnosis, maybe a breakup, maybe just a bad week that finally cracked them open. And you read it standing in line at a pharmacy, and you felt the full weight of it land in your chest. And you knew immediately that the parking lot of a Walgreens was not where you were going to write back. So you didn't. You waited for the right moment, the right words, a version of yourself that could match the message. And then, somehow, it was Thursday. This is why you can have an entire group chat going off at 2 p.m., and you watch the notifications stack up like dishes in a sink. This is why you respond to the easy texts immediately and let the meaningful ones sit. This is why you'll voice memo your closest friend a 9-minute reply at midnight on a Sunday, but you can't muster a "yeah, totally" to your aunt's question about Thanksgiving. Notice who you reply to fastest. It's almost never the people you care about most. It's the low-stakes ones, the logistical ones, the texts where the right answer is obvious. The hard messages, the ones from people you actually love, those you save for when you can show up properly, which is, somehow, never quite now. Here's the harder part. There's a version of slow replying that's protective, and a version that quietly becomes its own kind of distance. The first version waits because it cares. The second version waits because the wait itself has become easier than the contact. People drift not because of one big rupture usually, but because of 100 small replies that never quite happened. The friend who stopped reaching out wasn't punishing you. They just learned, over time, that the channel was mostly one way. There's a difference between needing space to respond well and using time as a wall. The line is worth knowing. Picture an old letter, written by hand, sitting on a desk in front of a window. The afternoon sun moves across it slowly. The person who wrote it meant every word. They sealed it, addressed it, and then, for reasons they couldn't fully explain even to themselves, they didn't take it to the mailbox that day. The next day, the light hit it again, and the next. The letter didn't change, the intention didn't fade, but the longer it sat there, the harder it became to remember why they ever picked up the pen. Eventually, they moved it to a drawer, where it's been ever since. A small, unsent thing that still, somehow, counts as a relationship in their head. Your unanswered texts are like that. The drawer is full. And the strange, hopeful thing about drawers is that they open. The letter is still there. The person, often, is still there. A late reply is almost never as unwelcome as your brain has spent 4 days insisting it would be. You're not flaky. You're not a bad friend. You're someone who takes messages seriously enough that the weight of them slows you down. And sometimes that weight is worth setting down long enough to just say, "Hey, I'm here. Sorry it took me a minute." So tell me, what's the longest you've ever sat on a text before replying? And was it the easy ones or the hard ones that aged the worst? I want to hear these. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support.